Subscribe because it is free.
They laughed. The council chamber rang with the wet, garbled snorts of the Grax ambassador as he slapped a scaly hand on the table. Their latest missile test blew up 5 seconds after launch. They posted the footage themselves, called it funny. The Avexi delegate waved a translucent limb. Perhaps we're being too hard on them. After all, humans are still fascinated by combustion. We should commend them for mastering fire. Another round of chuckles erupted, one delegate wheezing so hard he had to sip from a nutrient tube. Let it be known, rumbled the chair, voice layered with a dozen harmonics. The species-designated Homo sapiens is no longer deemed a threat to interstellar peace. Their file shall be reclassified as non-hostile, and all protective embargoes lifted. It was unanimous. No objections, no concerns. Earth had always been more of a sideshow than a seat at the table. Primitive, emotional, loud. To commemorate this gesture of faith, the council approved the launch of a ceremonial vessel, a glittering courier ship stocked with symbolic gifts, useless trinkets, obsolete tech, and a few educational volumes translated into crude phonetic English. The aliens thought it was a grand gesture. To humans, it would look like benevolence. To the council, it was a pat on the head. On Earth, the news hit like a slow wave. A galactic message, translated and aired globally, announced, "The Galactic Confederation hereby welcomes Earth as a peaceful world. You are free of quarantine. Let us learn together." Cameras captured the speech of the Earth President. "We are honored by your trust and humbled by your generosity. We look forward to building a new future together." Polite, poised, not a flicker of resistance. Behind the podium, General Carlson stood motionless, hands clasped behind his back. His expression didn't change during the speech, but his left thumb tapped a rhythm on his wrist. It looked casual. It wasn't. In an underground control center 5 miles below the Siberian tundra, a red light blinked to life. "Project Umbra is green," the technician whispered, barely believing it. He looked around at the sea of silent screens now flickering with encrypted feed lines. Drone swarms, orbital shadows, long dormant satellites pinging back to life. The room hummed with quiet anticipation. No applause, just activation. The world thought Earth had stopped preparing for war. The world was wrong. While the alien ambassador studied reruns of cooking shows and assumed it was ritualized violence, humanity had worked. While the Confederation monitored budget-friendly rocket launches and low-orbit science labs, humanity had dug deeper, built smarter, and learned faster. They thought the Cold War was a relic. It was a blueprint. In the Mojave, a former solar testing facility, now housed reactor cores capable of launching experimental energy weapons. In the Mariana Trench, long-abandoned mining rigs had become automated factories for underwater drones. Hidden within the Amazon, solar stealth satellites climbed slowly to the upper edge of the atmosphere, their dark hulls reflecting nothing, emitting less. Earth was not peaceful. Earth was hiding. In a concrete bunker just outside Reykjavik, 2 soldiers stood before a large digital map of Earth and its orbital belt. Dozens of blue dots hovered over major continents. One of them smirked. "They really lifted the block?" she asked. The officer beside her nodded. "Every embargo, every tracker disabled. They think we got sticks and goodwill." She leaned back in her chair, arms behind her head. "I love it when aliens underestimate us. Makes the punchline land harder." Meanwhile, alien diplomats continued their efforts to understand humanity. A delegation of those scientists became deeply disturbed by pro wrestling, which they misinterpreted as a form of trial by combat. One mistook a YouTube prank video for an intelligence test. Another was convinced fast food was a sacrificial offering to the gods of cardiovascular decay. Do humans deliberately ingest toxic substances? One report read, "It appears so, perhaps for status or mating rights." The Confederation compiled culture files into an analysis packet titled Behavioral Volatility with Performative Rituals, an anthropological look at Homo sapiens. In the summary, one line stood out. Humanity displays reckless tendencies and lacks cohesive structure. Predictive models indicate low risk. Low risk, that phrase was repeated across comms. stamped into diplomatic briefings, and past the naval fleets tasked with overseeing Earth's transition into civilized space. No need for force, just observation. What the aliens couldn't see, was a vast web of data points that suddenly went dark. Stock markets wobbled subtly. Internet pings shifted in frequency. Satellite routes rerouted due to solar interference. Supply shipments vanished into outdated databases. Even the NSA sent out a routine email marked as training exercise. It wasn't. In a hangar deep beneath Greenland's ice sheet, massive machines that hadn't seen daylight in 30 years powered up one by one. They weren't elegant. They were terrifying. Railgun tanks that could punch holes through lunar rock. Fighters shaped less like birds and more like angry razors. Drones that moved like insects, fast and cold and coordinated. A senior technician walked past a line of dormant combat suits and muttered, "So much for decommission." Beside him, a giant exomech shuddered to life. Its first vocalization wasn't a system check. It was a burst of classic heavy metal lyrics, half corrupted, thunderstruck. It made no sense. It didn't need to. Above ground, in a quiet university lab in Kyoto, for engineers finalized a prototype stealth module. Their lead, Dr. Yamamoto, watched as the device bent visible light around a test object, rendering it nearly invisible. "Congratulations," one assistant whispered. Dr. Yamamoto shrugged. "It only has to work once." Back in orbit, the Confederation's gift ship entered Earth's atmosphere in a controlled descent. News anchors gushed. Millions tuned in. Children waved flags. The vessel shimmered with alien grace, a polished silver teardrop trailing golden sparks. As it landed, the ramp lowered and 5 alien delegates emerged with gracious smiles and camera-friendly gestures. The human welcoming committee, military officers dressed like diplomats, clapped politely. One alien leaned toward his translator and asked, "Where's their planetary commander?" The translator hesitated. "They don't have one. They use something called democracy." The alien tilted his head. Strange, yet they were uniforms. "They call it ceremony," the translator added, still unsure. Then came the speech. Broadcast across all frequencies, the Earth president addressed both humanity and the galaxy. "Today marks a turning point in our shared history. We are humbled by your belief in our potential. We pledge peace, cooperation, and readiness. Let us grow together." In the audience, General Carlson nodded once. Another thumb tap. In Antarctica, a countdown began. No fireworks followed. No alien suspicions were raised. Not yet, but behind every smile, under every word, humanity waited. They didn't need permission, just an opening. The aliens arrived in style. Hundreds of Confederation vessels pierced the outer orbit, gliding into Earth's gravity like a parade of gods. Every ship gleamed with ceremonial colors, a rainbow of diplomatic nonsense. Streamers, banners, shimmering light displays, all for a species they believed was more pet than peer. "They're really doing a victory lap," muttered Major Singh, sipping stale coffee as he watched the live stream from a secure base beneath the Rockies. "Let them," replied Colonel Alvarez, arms crossed. "Let them land, wave their flags, shake a few hands. The more comfortable they are, the more spectacular the panic will be." The Confederation's approach was slow, deliberate, designed to impress. Hundreds of planetary citizens looked to the skies as alien cruisers darkened the clouds above. Children screamed in delight. News anchors fawned over the historic moment. Humanity had made it, they said. We were finally accepted. They didn't see the unease behind the eyes of certain world leaders. They didn't see how Earth's satellites had been quietly reprogrammed to transmit harmless data loops. They didn't notice how every national military suddenly scheduled communication drills and routine maintenance at the exact same time. In Washington, President Harris finished a closed-door meeting with a half-dozen shadowy officials, none of whom appeared on any organizational charts. Her final instruction was brief: confirm the ghost protocols. On the coast of Iceland, a small buoy transmitted a single encrypted pulse into the Atlantic Trench. A receiver buried under volcanic rock picked it up, related via deep ocean cable to a hardened Arctic command hub. There, a dormant system marked Kratos Link flashed online for the first time in decades. Within seconds, 15 orbital satellites shifted 1 degree. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Confederation captains aboard their gilded observation ships began noting minor fluctuations, gravitational anomalies, microbursts of electromagnetic noise. A few laughed. One Varnathi commander turned to his second and chuckled. Earth's planet still farts. The lieutenant grinned. Primitive systems can't handle our presence. We're overwhelming them. They didn't realize that fart was a weaponized weather system, a precision-engineered storm front triggered by satellite guidance. Minutes later, vast clouds began swirling over Earth's mid-atmosphere, forming artificial hurricanes in carefully plotted trajectories. Confederation ships flew straight into them. Lightning, too precise to be natural, crackled in geometric patterns. In lower orbit, 3 Confederation surveillance drones went dark. The Confederation noticed. They didn't worry. Their tech was millennia ahead of Earth's, right? Then came the first strike. Confederation ship Luminous Harmony, a medical vessel hovering above Central Europe, blinked out of existence in a burst of plasma. Not exploded, just erased. Aboard the flagship Serenity's gaze, panic blossomed. Was that human firepower? The helmsman asked. Impossible, the commander replied, though his voice cracked halfway through the word. Then a second ship went offline. Then a third. No visual, no warning, no comms. The Confederation fleet suddenly lost all connection to their ground forces. Their communication links jammed by a network of low-frequency signal suppressors buried under major cities. They scrambled to reset their quantum relays, only to find those relays had been subtly infected by what human programmers called the Welcome Mat, a virus hidden in Earth's diplomatic handshake data months ago. The moment they accepted Earth's invitation, they'd given up the keys. Confusion turned to fear, and then fury. Vessels powered up weapon systems. A handful of more aggressive alien captains ordered containment strikes on human military centers. Their lasers fired and bounced. Over a dozen orbital beams struck Earth and were absorbed, refracted, or dissipated into nothing. In one bizarre case, the beam actually looped, redirected by a satellite mirror ray that turned it into a deadly spiral that ripped back into the firing vessel's hull. The ship screamed, then cracked open like a tin can. In cities around the world, people watched live feeds and gasped. The alien fleet had come with a flourish. Now it was unraveling. In the skies over North America, massive plumes of smoke began to twist, and then resolve into dark, streamlined aircraft, human fighters. Not the kind shown in public air shows. Not the kind in service catalogs. These were matte black, hulls laced with nanowire lattice, thrusters running silent, formation tight as machine code. They didn't rise from military bases. They came from nowhere. Subterranean vaults, false mountains, closed facilities long thought to be environmental research centers. In total, 14,600 fighters launched across the globe within 40 seconds. They didn't broadcast warnings. They didn't send threats. They attacked. The Confederation didn't understand how humans move so fast. They'd underestimated reaction time, underestimated adaptation. Their data models had predicted chaos, panic, disorganized resistance. They didn't predict harmony. Every human pilot operated with eerie precision, as if they'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. In truth, they had simulators, neural link training, simulated engagements with alien tactics downloaded from every recorded battle. Humanity had turned ignorance into a weapon. They'd learned everything the aliens had shared and built counters. The first full dogfight happened above the Indian Ocean. 14 Confederation recon drones engaged a formation of 23 human fighters. It lasted 9 seconds. The alien fleet had never dealt with an opponent that fought like humanity. There was no honor, no formation standards, no predictable logic. Just a flurry of violence, rapid targeting swaps, suicide feints, and coordinated swarm behavior. One alien commander barked, They're not flying, they're brawling. Another whispered, "This isn't war, it's vengeance." At ground level, the final piece clicked into place. The humans had let the aliens land. Ceremonial governors, peacekeepers, and observation delegates had been stationed across several human nations, posing as advisors and liaisons. Most were smug, unarmed. Most didn't survive past the first hour. Human Special Forces teams, dressed in unmarked black and guided by predictive AI, eliminated alien footholds in synchronized sweeps. In Australia, an alien command post was neutralized with a dozen drone-delivered microbursts disguised as thunderclaps. In Cairo, an entire squad of alien engineers vanished during a staged security evacuation. In Berlin, an ambassador tried to call for extraction. The call never went through. Back aboard the Serenity's gaze, the Confederation Council finally understood. Earth hadn't been waiting for peace. Earth had been hunting. For years, aboard the ship, an aide choked back a sound. They lured us in. The chair of the council rose, trembling. They played us. Every species in the room, every smug delegate who had ever laughed at combustion engines and chemical propellants, each one now stared at the battlefield forming across the stars. One whispered, "This planet was supposed to be harmless." Another murmured, "We called them primitive." Someone else asked, "What are they now?" No one answered. They were watching the answer unfold. Earth didn't wait for permission. By the third hour, every orbiting Confederation ship had either retreated, been boarded, or been blown clean out of the sky. No negotiations. No prisoners. No quarter. Aboard the human command vessel Argus Prime, Admiral Monroe leaned over a glowing tactical display. The map of Earth's orbit had been a kaleidoscope of colored threats hours ago. Now it looked like a graveyard. Red excess over every destroyed alien vessel. Blue lines radiating from Earth's surface to the Moon, Mars, and the fringe colonies, offensive vectors, not defensive ones. She tapped a command. All remaining Earth-based interstellar ships received one word: advance. While the Confederation reeled in horror, Earth moved. Transatmospheric launch platforms hidden in defunct oil rigs and weather stations fired heavy transports loaded with troops, drones, and specialized AI command cores. Earth's forces didn't just want to win. They wanted to reach. Every alien base in the solar system was now a target. The Mars Diplomatic Station, meant as a future meeting ground, was overtaken in 15 minutes. No damage, no loss of human life, just surgical infiltration and total system override. The alien administrator, a well-respected equerry scholar, demanded an explanation. He received a message written in Latin. Veni, vidi vici. He didn't understand the reference, but he understood the tone. Back on Earth, resistance was non-existent. The Confederation's strategy had relied entirely on the assumption that humans wouldn't dare retaliate, that even if Earth had weapons, it lacked the unity or ruthlessness to deploy them. They were catastrophically wrong on both counts. The humans hadn't just built new weapons, they'd built a new doctrine. No centralized command, no fragile hierarchy. Distributed networks, predictive tactics, real-time battlefield adaptation. Every squad leader had autonomy. Every soldier was a node. Cut one, 10 more rows in its place. This wasn't the military-industrial complex of old Earth. This was evolution through adversity. In an alien war room deep in the Confederation's mid-orbit command cruiser, panic had turned to hysteria. Delegates screamed over each other, demanding reports, demanding answers, demanding sense. "They have no fleet," one shouted. "Their shipyard are limited, their fuel supply inefficient. Then how are they jumping to the asteroid belt?" Another screamed, pointing to a live feed of human vessels deploying satellite kill teams near Vesta. One analyst, shaking, replayed an intercepted signal. A human pilot's voice, distorted by speed and G-forces, cracking through the static. Just another Tuesday. They didn't even sound impressed. The Confederation's military historians would later call it the day of reversal, the moment the hunter became the prey. But in that moment, there were no historians, only survivors. In the colonies long controlled by the Confederation, the impact was immediate. For decades, minor species had lived under the guidance of superior races. These protectorates were little more than well-polished occupations, peace enforced at the barrel of a gravity cannon. But now, reports came in of human units landing on those worlds, liberating them, not conquering, freeing. On Zent Prime, a farming colony long burdened by punitive tribute systems, human transports dropped relief crates and AI agricultural systems. They did it without fanfare, without demands. Just one message, broadcast on open frequency. No more chains. On Dravones, a planet where speaking out against the Confederation could get you erased from planetary records, citizens gathered in silence to watch human ships in low orbit. One child asked her father, "Are they here to take us?" The father replied, "No, I think they're here to wake us." The image of humanity shifted rapidly across the galaxy, from backwards primitives to unpredictable anomalies to liberators. Not everyone liked that. In a secure chamber aboard a Confederation stronghold on the edge of the Eris expanse, surviving leaders gathered in a virtual conclave, bitter, confused, angry. The consensus? Earth had become a threat on a scale they'd never anticipated. How? One council demanded. How did they build all this? Another, tentacled and red-eyed, hissed. Infighting, conflict, evolution through chaos. They trained themselves by fighting each other. A third added bitterly. And we gave them time. We gave them distance. We mocked them and watched. The room fell quiet. It wasn't just that Earth had won. It was that Earth had grown stronger in the shadows, right under their noses. In response, some worlds began distancing themselves from the Confederation altogether. Quiet diplomatic requests filtered toward human systems, filled with vague offers of cooperation or neutrality. One message, sent from a mining cartel once considered vital to the Confederation's energy grid, asked only one thing: are we next? Earth didn't respond. They didn't need to. The message had already been sent. Across battlefields, across broken fleets, across every planet that had once dismissed humanity as a loud, amusing footnote in galactic history. Humans weren't amusing anymore. They were apex predators. And they were just getting started. Meanwhile, on Luna Station, Earth's newly reactivated military headquarters, Admiral Monroe stood alone in front of a holographic map of the galaxy. Dozens of blinking dots marked human movements, some rapid, others slow and creeping, like vines in a garden of glass. A technician stepped in. "Ma'am." Another two governors surrendered. No resistance. They requested amnesty. Monroe didn't smile. She just gave a nod. "Send them rations, medical supplies, then leave." "Just leave? If they want to survive," she said, voice dry. "They'll get out of our way." Across the galaxy, memes began to spread. Not Confederation-approved art or cultural exhibits, but viral snippets smuggled through black market data lines. Images of Earth's old technology rebranded as secret weapons. Cartoons of stick-figure aliens begging human soldiers for mercy. And one that showed the planet Earth, smug-faced and muscular, looming over a bunch of confused, tiny alien worlds. Text beneath: "Primitive, huh? Hold my atmosphere." The Confederation couldn't erase them, couldn't outmessage them. Humans weren't just fighting with guns and drones. They were winning the narrative. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to laugh with the humans and tremble. A week after the reversal, the Galactic Council arrived on Earth, but not as diplomats, as prisoners. Their once gleaming flagship, Unity Ascendant, now limped into Earth orbit under human escort, stripped of its banners, colors dimmed, engines clamped by human override codes. The Confederation had asked for a diplomatic resolution after the massacre of their orbital fleets. Humanity had granted it, with conditions. Aboard a high-security transit ship, the alien dignitaries sat in silence, gone with their smug expressions and ceremonial robes. Now, they wore adaptive restraint collars, non-lethal, respectful, but undeniably symbolic. They were no longer in control. The vessel descended through Earth's clouds toward the Colorado Expanse, a mountainous region that now hosts a command site Vulcan, Earth's new interstellar military political hub. It hadn't existed a week ago. Now it rose from the cliffs like something out of myth. Steel spires, drone-guarded walls, defense systems too advanced to guess at. The ship touched down. The ramp extended. No fanfare, no red carpets. Just a line of armored human soldiers, standing still, visors black, weapons idle but not relaxed. Counselor Zerzeth, a spindly Krylithian with 3 hearts and too much pride, refused to move at first. "This is absurd," he hissed. "You can't treat the council this way." A nearby soldier glanced his way. The visor didn't move. The human didn't speak. A quiet click issued from the suit, probably a safety release on a plasma rifle. Zerzeth walked. Inside the facility, the aliens were led to a towering auditorium, stone, metal, and light. Cold, efficient, human. Screens lined the walls, each showing simultaneous footage. Liberated colonies, destroyed Confederation ships, human troops distributing food and aid to newly freed species. At the far end stood Admiral Monroe. No podium, no translator, just a small, old Earth flag behind her, faded, stitched, and proud. She waited for silence. It didn't take long. "You called us primitive," she said flatly. "That was your first mistake." Some counselors fidgeted. Others tried to maintain dignity. Monroe continued. "Your second mistake was assuming that primitive meant weak. That because we hadn't joined your alliance, we weren't watching, listening, preparing." Her gaze swept the room. She wasn't angry. She was just done. "You dropped the leash. You told us we were too small to worry about. That's when we grew teeth." Counselor Jintao, a beetle-shelled ambassador from the Finance Commission, croaked nervously. "We acted on available data. Your advancements were—" "You underestimated the value of war," Monroe interrupted. "We didn't evolve with unity. We evolved through fire. Every nation that ever tried to crush us only taught us better ways to fight. You've had peace for too long. We've had none. Guess who got sharper?" The room went silent. Monroe tapped a wrist console. One of the screens changed. Footage played. Confederation vessels disabling weapon systems over Earth before their ceremonial descent. Then footage of Earth's orbital grid flickering to life. Satellite-based energy shields. Targeting arrays hidden in weather monitoring networks. You thought we didn't notice, but you announced your power. Loudly. Often. We took notes. And then we built things you never saw coming. Zerzeth found his voice again. "Is this how your people plan to govern? Through fear? Through force?" Monroe raised a brow. "No," she said. "This is how we end being governed." The council murmured. "We don't want your throne. We want to burn it. We don't need your bureaucracy. We've lived with chaos and still managed to unite. What makes you think we'd trade that for your slow, crumbling empire?" She turned away from the podium and spoke one last command. "Bring them." A second door opened. In walked delegates from a newly freed worlds, Zen Prime, Dravones, Tarka's Reach, and others. None had ever stood in the council's chamber before. Now they stood above it. One young delegate, barely into adulthood by her species standards, stepped forward and placed a hand on the table where the counselors sat. "We remember your promises," she said, voice shaking. "We remember what it cost to believe them." Then she looked to the humans. "And we remember who showed up when it counted." The counselors looked around. They weren't in control of the room anymore. They weren't even the focus. They were relics. An hour later, Monroe and her senior officers stood on the summit of Site Vulcan, watching the sun rise over Earth. Ships zipped through the upper atmosphere, human and alien alike, most under new command. Her comms officer approached, tablet in hand. "New message from Kalari Trade Alliance. They want formal relations. Also, they're offering 6 moons for exclusive rights to human tactical training programs." Monroe snorted. 6 moons? Tell them to come back when they've got a planet and a sense of humor. Another officer approached. "A few fringe Confederation worlds are threatening to retaliate. Skirmishes on the border. Nothing serious yet." Monroe didn't look away from the sky. "If they want a rematch, they know where we live." There was a pause. "Ma'am, do you think they'll ever forgive us?" Monroe turned, lips twitching. Forgive us for what? For not being as stupid as they hoped. She grinned. We'll send them a fruit basket. The officers laughed, not cruelly, not arrogantly, just as humans. Later that week, the last of the council was escorted to their temporary diplomatic quarters, well guarded, but not harsh. Humanity wasn't cruel, just unflinching. A joint statement was drafted between Earth and the liberated systems. It didn't propose a new confederation. It didn't offer a replacement. It simply stated, freedom is not granted. It is taken, and we have taken it. Galactic news feeds erupted. Some called it rebellion. Others called it a new age. But one phrase began trending across 10,000 systems, on every language filter, meme engine, and shared broadcast. They called Earth primitive. Now we call them the Apex. Apex, not conqueror, not emperor, just the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. A species too stubborn to stay down, too clever to stay weak, too united when it mattered to lose. And somewhere across the stars, another alien child looked up and asked, Dad, do you think humans are scary? The father replied, No. He paused. But I do think they're finished pretending not to be.